out there in YouTube land, this is Morris Man, and as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel and the ongoing support and subscriptions. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to do a short video, and it's entitled Some of My Favorite Bands. I'm not going to entitle it the best of or the top 10, because if I do, I get a ton of comments saying, why isn't this band on the list? And why is this band on the list? So again, I'm going to play it safe and give you some of my personal favorite bands. And first on the list is Earth, Wind & Fire. I mean, what can you say about Earth, Wind & Fire? Great vocal band, great writers, great producers, unbelievable musicians. And what I love about Earth, Wind & Fire was not only they were a great quote-unquote band, but I love their image. They were very spiritual. You know, you never read in tabloid magazines or trade magazines as far as drug use or anything kind of out of the ordinary or the typical entertainer's behavior, or, you know, anybody within the band having a problem with anybody else in the band. They were a very solid group, you know, from that aspect as well as the musical aspect. So they were great role models as well. And that's what I loved about them. And what I loved also about them was they didn't write simple songs. You know, if you was going to step to an Earth, Wind & Fire song, you better do your homework and rehearse and practice, because, again, the stuff that they did, they changed keys within a lot of their songs, the lavish arrangements, the accents, you know, all of those were, you know, a part of their sound. So, you know, they made us better musicians when we tried to cover their material. And we appreciate the contributions that they have given, you know, to the music industry. We really appreciate you guys. Next on the list is the Brothers Johnson. One of the few bands that when I was younger growing up, and if I walked past the record shop and I seen their album, I would go immediately in and buy it without even hearing it, because I knew every Brothers Johnson album that they put out were going to be detailed with a lot of great songs. And you know you're great songwriters and producers when Quincy Jones tap you on the shoulder and say, let's go. They were working with Quincy Jones when they were literally teenagers. And they wrote a lot of stuff that appeared on the Quincy Jones albums. And they toured with Quincy Jones. And of course, the legendary bass player Larry Lewis Johnson. So definitely made the list. Another group on the list is kind of an obscure group, and I mentioned them before, T-Connection. T-Connection was one of those groups that they kind of flew under the radar for many years, but they wrote really great songs. They were a really good tight band. Their bass player, Kurt Coakley, one of my all-time favorite bass players. When you listen to him play, he had the ability to put these notes in between the main notes and not give too much. You know, I love his bass playing. And his brother was the lead vocalist in that group and the piano player. And you could tell he was classically trained, because there's a song on one of the albums called Prisoner of My Mind. And at the beginning, this brother's kind of playing like a classical piece. Then he goes kind of into the R&B soul thing. So they were a very unique band. And a lot of people, unfortunately, didn't get a chance to enjoy them because, again, they kind of flew under the radar back in the late 70s, early 80s. They had two big hits, After Midnight, and then You Get the Best of My Love, which is one of my favorite ballads. I love to play that song. And I'm going to do a cover of that coming up very soon. Next on the list is Utopia, headed up by Ty Rundgren. Now, Utopia consists of 4 band members. And what I love about that group is I call them the super group within the group, because here is 4 guys that they all sang lead very well, and they all had lead vocal chores, or, you know, they switched up on it. They all were multi-musicians. You know, they played several different instruments. They were ahead of their time. They were doing music videos back in the 70s before they were called music videos. So Ty Rundgren and company were definitely ahead of their time. And I have just about everything they've ever put out, if not everything they've ever put out. So definitely made the list. Van Halen. Who doesn't want to be Eddie Van Halen? When I first picked up a guitar, I was like, I want to play like that guy. And I think there are millions of other kids out there back in the day said the same thing. I want to play like that guy. You know, and I mentioned them before as far as, of course, we know that they were a tremendous band and still playing and performing and still are. But they were never given their due as great songwriters, because I felt that they were also great songwriters. Majority of their stuff, if not all of it, you know, on their albums, there were no fillers. They were all very well-written songs. Next on the group on the list, and they're actually not quote-unquote a group, but I kind of put them in anyway. Teddy Riley and Guy. Teddy Riley is like a one-man band. You know, the majority of the stuff that Guy put out, Teddy Riley played all that stuff by himself. The pianos, synthesizers. In my opinion, the greatest drum programmer that ever lived. You know, long before Timbaland and these other guys, it was Teddy Riley. And Aaron Hall on vocals. I mean, you know, a dynamite combination. So, and also, again, with Teddy Riley, you know you're good, just like with the Brothers Johnson, when Quincy Jones or Michael Jackson comes knocking on your door and say, hey, let's go. You know you are a great producer, songwriter when those two guys come looking for you. Teddy Riley is responsible for Michael Jackson hit, do you remember the time? Jam, he wrote for Keith Sweat first album, Bobby Brown, My Prerogative. He also wrote Just Got Paid by Johnny Kemp back in the 80s. I didn't know that till several years ago. You know, so Teddy Riley has been around for a long time writing great hits for big artists and putting them on the map. Next on the list is the Gap Band. Love the Gap Band. You know, back in the day, they were just turning out hits left and right. And great songwriters, great vocalists. You know, can't say enough about the Gap Band. The great ballads, the up-tempo stuff, you know, everything was there for them. Well-rounded band. Next on the list is the Beatles, of course. I'm sure that the Beatles are going to show up on just about everybody's list of favorite bands. These four guys from Liverpool just set the world on fire back in the 60s. You know, they came onto the scene with these great songs, these great harmonies, the great musicianship, and everybody back in the day wanted to be like them. Next on the list is another band from England during that period, Freddie and the Dreamers. What I love about Freddie and the Dreamers were they were great performers. Freddie Garrity was a great singer, and I think, you know, we lost him a couple of years ago. One of my favorite bands out of England. Love the guitar work. You know, when I was a little kid, I used to listen to all this stuff, and I tried to play it. You know, can't say enough about Freddie and the Dreamers. Next on the list and last on the list is the Whispers. The Whispers, to me, is one of those rare groups where they've been in the business for 30 plus years, and they've been consistent. You know, there has not been a time or era in their career where they plummeted or they were recording crappy songs. They kept a sense of integrity to all their songs. I've yet to run across any quote-unquote bad Whispers song. Every song on their CDs and albums were just, you know, well put together, and the majority of their songs that were penned on them back in that era in the middle, like in the 80s, was penned on them by Leon Sylvers from the Sylvers. And Leon Sylvers, I'm going to actually do a whole video on him too, because he's kind of like Teddy Riley. Throughout the years, he wrote for a lot of artists and put them on the map and never really got his due. And also very underrated bass player. I believe that he was just as good as Bernard Edwards, and that's not taking anything away from Bernard Edwards, but their bass lines were very intricate. And to this day, I have to use a pick to play a lot of the Bernard Edwards stuff, because I don't know too many people that have those fast kind of fingers, like Bernard Edwards and Leon Sylvers, because Leon Sylvers' bass lines were very similar to Bernard Edwards as far as these are not going to be easy to do, you know, and a lot of us couldn't do it, you know. So I'm definitely going to do a whole video, you know, on Leon Sylvers, because I believe that he deserves that. But that's my list, and I'm going to make it sweet and short. And I hope that you found this entertaining. And until next time, take care.